SQL is a programming language, and like any programming language, it has a set of rules for writing commands. A syntax for the way SQL statements must be written to be understood by the database server. A SQL statement may also be referred to as a query. So when we send a command to the database server, we're said to be querying the database server. As application developers, the most useful of the SQL statements will be the select command, retrieving data from the database. When we write a SQL command, we can think of it as being in 4 parts. These 4 parts are divided by the keywords select, from, where, and order by. Select is a keyword, and it begins the command to retrieve data from the database. If we want to retrieve all of the data in the table, we can use an asterisk or a splat after the select command, followed by the from keyword and a table name. So the command select splat from some table will return all rows and all columns of data from that table. Typically, we don't need all of the data. We don't need all of the rows. Requesting all of the data will impact the performance, not only of the database server, but the network and the application server as well, because when all of the data is returned to the PHP server, then the PHP code is going to have to sort through that data to separate the required data from the extraneous data. And likely, if we use select splat too often, we're going to get a visit from the DBA because of the inefficiency of that statement. So when we write a select statement, we follow the select keyword with the names of the columns of data that we're interested in. Again, often we're not interested in all of the columns within a table, but some subset of those columns. We can list that set of columns that we're interested in for the application in a comma-separated list after the keyword select, followed by the from keyword and then the name of the table containing the data. Well, this still will return all rows in the table. So we need a way, when we're building our select statement, to limit the number of rows that will be returned, because now we can limit, by listing the column names, we can limit the amount of data that's being returned from the columns in the table. The where clause is going to help us limit the number of rows returned from the table. And in a where clause of a select statement, we define a condition that's used to test each row of data in the table for inclusion in the result set. The where clause defines a true or false condition which is tested against some column in the table and decides whether or not that row is included in the result set. For example, we write a select statement requesting the title, director, and rating columns from a table. And we ask for the rows in that table where the rating column is equal to the string PG. This will limit the number of rows returned from the table. We are limiting the number of columns returned in the select statement by naming the columns that we require. Now we're going to limit the number of rows with the where statement. We can combine conditions using the and keyword. So in this example, we're saying select only these columns from some table where the rating is equal to the string PG and the director column is equal to the string Scott. Now we're focusing the query on the specific data that we're interested in. In addition to the AND keyword, there is also an OR keyword. And in creating the where clause, we have a complete set of comparison operators, as well as additional operators that work on ranges of values or do wildcard matches. And we're going to see examples of some of these operators. So the real power of the select statement in returning a focused set of data from the database is in the where clause. Again, the select statement allows us to limit not only the columns that are being returned, but also the rows that are being returned. And by writing a focused select statement with a comprehensive where clause, we can create very efficient SQL statements. When we're matching strings in the where clause, we can either match complete strings or we can use the like keyword. The like keyword allows us to substitute one or more characters in the string. The percent sign is interpreted by SQL as meaning one or more characters and can be placed either in front or behind or both in front and behind of a set of characters to match within the string. For returning ranges of data, we can use the in keyword followed by a list of values within parentheses. Or we can use the between keyword and specify values to be returned that fall within the range defined by the terms in the between statement. Once we've focused our select statement and have our result set defined that's going to be returned to us by the database server, we can then instruct the database server to sort that data for us based on some column value or even multiple column values. So in the order by clause, we would list the columns by which to sort and the sort order, whether descending or ascending. By default, the order by clause will return the data set in ascending order. However, we can override that with the DESC, descending keyword. So let's go look at some code.